Try it right now. Go ahead. Run your fingers along the side of your rib cage, the spot that makes you squirm when someone else does it. Press in a little, move them around. Nothing. Maybe a mild pressure, maybe a vague awareness of your own hand, but the thing that happens when someone else does it, that involuntary, full body, can't breathe, stop, stop, stop reaction. It isn't there. It will not come. You can try for an hour, and it will not come. You cannot tickle yourself. And here is what makes this genuinely strange. Your skin has not changed. The nerves in your ribs are the same nerves. The signal pathway from your fingertips to your brain is identical whether the fingers belong to you or someone else. The hardware is exactly the same, and yet the result is completely different. Something in your brain is blocking it, and the reason why, what it actually reveals about how your mind works, what it tells us about consciousness, about schizophrenia, about the difference between self and other, is one of the most unsettling things neuroscience has quietly figured out in the last 30 years. Let's start with what's actually happening inside your skull. Deep at the back of your brain sits a structure called the cerebellum. Most people learned in school that the cerebellum handles balance and coordination. That is true, but that description is like saying a cathedral is a place with a roof. The cerebellum contains more neurons than the rest of your brain combined. It is doing something far more sophisticated than keeping you upright. The cerebellum is a prediction machine. Every single time your body is about to move, your brain sends two signals. The first goes to your muscles to execute the movement. The second goes to the cerebellum. This second signal is essentially a preview, a copy of what the movement is, so the cerebellum can calculate in advance what the sensory consequences of that movement will feel like. When you reach for a glass, your cerebellum has already predicted the weight, the temperature, the resistance, before your fingers even touch it. When you speak, it predicts the sound of your own voice before your ears register it. This is why your voice sounds wrong in recordings. What you hear day to day is your brain's prediction of your voice. The recording is the unfiltered reality, and it sounds foreign because your brain was never paying full attention to it. It already knew what was coming. It stopped listening. Now apply this to tickling. When you move your own hand toward your ribs, your cerebellum fires that predictive signal. It knows exactly where your hand is going. It knows exactly how much pressure will be applied. It knows the speed, the angle, the contact point. By the time your fingers arrive, your brain has already modeled the sensation so precisely that it cancels it out. The incoming signal is compared to the prediction. They match perfectly, and your brain essentially files it as unimportant. Nothing to see here, just me touching myself. Carry on. But when someone else's hand moves towards you, your cerebellum has no preview. It did not send the motor command that initiated the movement. It cannot predict the pressure, the angle, the exact moment of contact. The sensation arrives without warning, and your brain treats it as urgent, unpredictable information that demands an immediate response. That response is laughter, flinching, the desperate need to make it stop. Ticklishness is not a quirk of sensitive skin. It is a security system triggered by unpredictability. But here is where it gets genuinely interesting. In the late 1990s, neuroscientist Sarah Jane Blakemore at University College London decided to test exactly where this prediction mechanism breaks down. She built a device, a small robotic arm, that could touch a person's palm with a soft piece of foam. The person controlled the robot's movement with a joystick, so technically, they were tickling themselves. Their hand was moving the robot was touching their skin, and they felt almost nothing. Same result as using their own hand directly. Then Blakemore introduced a delay, a fraction of a second between the joystick movement and the robot's response, a quarter of a second, half a second. The ticklishness came back. The longer the delay, the more the person felt it, because the delay broke the prediction. The sensation no longer arrived exactly when the cerebellum expected it. The mismatch between prediction and reality was enough to reactivate the response. The brain could no longer cancel the signal because the signal was no longer arriving on schedule. A robot, a joystick, and a half-second lag was enough to make you unable to tell the difference between yourself and another person. Think about what that means. The boundary between self and other, that fundamental sense of where you end and the world begins, is not a philosophical concept. It is a timing mechanism. Your brain knows it is you because it can predict what you are going to do before you do it. The moment that prediction fails, the self becomes a stranger. And now here is where almost nobody goes when they tell this story, because this is the part that changes what you thought you understood about the human brain. There are people for whom this prediction mechanism is broken, not occasionally, not under specific lab conditions, permanently. People with schizophrenia can tickle themselves. Blakemore tested this directly. She brought in patients experiencing symptoms of schizophrenia, particularly those with passivity symptoms, the deeply distressing experience of feeling that your thoughts, your movements, even your emotions are being generated by something outside you, an external force wearing your body like a suit. And she found that these patients could generate ticklish sensations from their own touch. The cancellation signal was absent, or severely weakened. Their own hand was arriving as a surprise. This is not a minor finding filed away in an academic journal nobody reads. It is a window into something profound about what the disorder actually is at its biological root. One of the defining experiences of schizophrenia is the inability to correctly identify the source of your own mental activity, hearing your own inner voice and experiencing it as coming from outside your head, feeling that your arm moved, but not because you decided to move it. The cerebellum's prediction system, the mechanism that constantly, automatically, invisibly tags every experience as mine versus not mine, is misfiring, and the result is that the self becomes porous. The boundary dissolves, not metaphorically, neurologically. You cannot tickle yourself because your brain always knows it is you. They can tickle themselves because part of their brain is genuinely not sure. Sit with that for a moment, because the thing you have always taken for granted, that absolute, bedrock certainty that you are the one doing your thinking, that your hands belong to you, that your thoughts are authored by you, is not a given. It is a process. It is something your cerebellum is actively maintaining right now every second by firing prediction signals and checking them against what actually arrives. The sense of self is not a fact about you. It is a calculation your brain is continuously running. And like any calculation, it can produce the wrong answer. Now consider what else this prediction system is doing to your experience of being alive. Every sensation you generate yourself is dampened by it. When you touch your own face, you feel it less acutely than when someone else touches it. When you press your fingertip against your thumb, each finger registers the pressure, but neither registers it fully the way an unexpected foreign touch would. Scientists have a name for this. They call it sensory attenuation. Your own touch is always turned down, always partially canceled, because your brain already knew it was coming and decided it wasn't worth full attention. There is a simple experiment that demonstrates this. Hold your two index fingers parallel, about an inch apart, and bring them slowly together until they touch. You feel it, but softly. Now close your eyes and have someone else bring their finger toward yours and make contact without warning. Same physical pressure, same nerve endings, but the sensation is sharper, more present, more vivid. What changed is not the touch. What changed is the prediction. You are walking through your entire life experiencing a muted version of your own body. Everything you generate, every sensation that originates from you, is filtered and turned down before it reaches your conscious awareness. The full, unattenuated signal only comes through when something external, something your cerebellum did not write a preview for, makes contact with you. This is why human touch matters, not as a sentiment, not as poetry, as hard neuroscience. The person across from you can make you feel things about your own body that your own hands literally cannot produce, not because their hands are different, because your brain will not allow it. It has already canceled the signal before it fully arrives. It knew you were coming. It stopped paying attention. And this is why sustained physical isolation from other people is not just emotionally painful in the way loneliness is described in self-help books. It is neurologically impoverishing in a way that is specific and measurable. You are living inside a sensory system that is permanently turned down on itself, that can only be fully activated by something it did not predict, something it could not have written the preview for. You need the unpredictability of another person, not because you are sentimental, not because connection is a nice idea, because you are a prediction machine that can only be fully surprised from the outside. And a prediction machine that is never surprised is slowly going deaf to its own experience. Studies on people in long-term solitary confinement show not just psychological deterioration, but perceptual disturbances. The brain, deprived of unpredictable external input, begins to generate its own. hallucinations, voices, sensations with no external source. When the cerebellum has nothing genuine to predict against, it starts manufacturing the unpredictability it needs. It invents a world to be surprised by, because the alternative is a silence it was never designed to tolerate. You were built to be caught off guard. You were built to be touched by things you didn't see coming. That is not a vulnerability in the system. That is the system. Now here is what you are left with. That thing that happens when someone catches you off guard. Their fingers in the wrong place at the wrong moment, and you cannot breathe, and you are laughing before you even processed what happened. That helpless, involuntary, total loss of composure. That is your brain telling you the truth. That is what full contact with an unpredictable world actually feels like, when your cerebellum has no preview and cannot cancel the signal, and the sensation arrives whole and unfiltered. Most of the time you are buffered, predicted, attenuated. Your own experience of yourself is an edited version, turned down in advance, flagged as already known, already accounted for, already filed. You have never once surprised yourself. Your own touch cannot reach you all the way, and somewhere in that specific, strange, neuroscientifically verified fact that the one person in the world you cannot catch off guard is the person you spend every second of your life being, there is something that goes far beyond tickling. It means the most vivid version of your life is not the one you generate alone. It is the one that arrives from somewhere you didn't predict, from someone your cerebellum never saw coming.